And I know that we're all here today because we care about animals, and we have a lot in common with our interest in protecting animals and figuring out the best ways that we can be the most effective animal advocates. But I also know that being Sunday and having started this conference on Thursday night, and there's so much going on. You guys have learned so much and met so many new people that we all now have one other thing in common, and that is sleep deprivation. Am I right? So I hope you guys have been having a great time. This is like the best session of the entire conference. So round of applause for choosing to come this one. I am honored to be on this panel, Strategies for Promoting Vegan Eating, with several of my esteemed colleagues who I respect very much and eager to learn from them as well. So strategies for promoting vegan eating. So we all know that we want to get our message out there. We all know that we want to figure out ways to inspire and empower people to care about animals. But before we get started with all of this, I want to highlight, how many of you guys were at the panel earlier this morning with several of the former undercover investigators? That's excellent. So this is a really powerful panel, and they are the true heroes of our movement who fuel everything that we do. They give us the images that we use to try to change people's minds and change people's dietary choices. So I wanted to give a quick shout out to one of my personal heroes, Taylor Raddick, who is on the cover of our new magazine. She wanted to become an undercover investigator. And what is one thing that is never planned for someone who wants to be an undercover investigator is being outed by the authorities who are pretending to be there to help animals with you. They charged her with a crime and a retaliatory move because she had exposed abuse in their community. Thankfully, the charge was dropped, and she is now telling her story. She is here at the conference. If you guys have a moment, please go up to her and say thank you for her work, and help inspire others by going to our booth upstairs and leaving a note that we're going to share with other investigators currently in the field who need extra inspiration. Their work is so hard, and leaving a short note that we can share with them to keep them motivated and keep them going. So I'm going to get started on strategies for effective vegan advocacy. So we all know in this room, most of us probably have a dog or cat at home, right? Do you guys have animals at home? So we know a lot about our animals at home, the animals who we live with. We share a lot in common with them. We know when they're happy. We know when they're sad. We know when they're cold. We know when they want attention to play. We know when they're sick, we take them to the vet. We also know when they want to get selfies taken and posted on Facebook. We know that the animals who live in our homes with us are no different from the animals raised on factory farms. We know that they all can feel pain, they all can feel sadness and joy, and most importantly, we know that they suffer just the same as dogs and cats in our homes. These animals are identical in terms of their emotional capacities. Yet in this country, we raise more than 9 billion farm animals every single year. We raise and kill them for food. It represents about 99% of the animals in our country today are animals who are raised and killed for food. That small red pie chart at the top represents animals in other industries. What we also know is that the industry doesn't want us to know what's happening behind their closed doors. They'd rather us seeing songs like Old MacDonald's Farm and behaviorals in grocery stores, making us think that these animals are leading good lives, when in reality, they're confined to these massive factory farms where they're deprived of the ability to perform most of their natural behaviors. And they want to keep us out. They're trying to pass ag laws that will criminalize undercover investigations. They don't want us to know what's happening behind their closed doors, because it's easier for them to sell products that look like this than it is to tell the reality of where the food is coming from that they're selling in the stores and in the restaurants today. So, there is good news. When we look at what Americans are eating today, we already know overwhelmingly that Americans are eating meat, but we're seeing a shift. We're seeing a significant shift in our food choices. We know that right now 15 million Americans are vegetarian 100% of the time. We know that 50 million more Americans are vegetarian about half the time. And And we also know, thanks to the meat industry that conducted a study on this, that 60 million Americans participate in Meatless Mondays. So this is great news. This is the shift that we're starting to see. And we also know, thanks to the United States Department of Agriculture that keeps track of all of this, that for decades, meat consumption has gone up and up and up. It has continually increased year after year after year. But recently, starting in 2007, it has plummeted. In fact, meat consumption is down 12% in the last 5 years. And it's not even just meat consumption. We're also seeing milk. The milk consumption in the United States, also studied by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, it too is plummeting. Each new generation is consistently drinking less and less milk than the generation before them. And it's a trend that the dairy industry is talking about and they're worried about, and that's why you're seeing more milk advertisements than ever before, because we're just not drinking as much milk as we used to. It's not even just milk, it's eggs. We're eating less eggs than we ever used to eat. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, each year we're eating about a dozen fewer eggs compared to 2006. So we're eating less meat, we're drinking less milk, and we're eating less eggs. This is all great news if we know that there are fewer animals being raised and killed for food. Maybe all these animals are still being raised and killed and exported to other countries. But we can actually look at that because the United States Department of Agriculture has also collected all of this information. And we do know that year after year after year, the consumption of meat that has gone up, it corresponds with the number of animals in the United States raised and killed for food. But if we look very close at the numbers, and we're talking about 9.5 billion animals raised and killed for food at the highest peak in 2008, it too is going down. And that might not look like a very significant difference in this chart, but if you look close at the numbers, we're talking about a drop from 9.5 billion animals to 9 billion animals. That's a 500 million fewer animals raised and killed each year for food in the United States, corresponding to our plummeting meat consumption. So how did we get there? Like, I'm telling you all this awesome news, and you're thinking, this is so great, I'm going to just go home, it's been a long weekend, take a nap, maybe take a few days off of work, I don't need to do anything, because all this good stuff is already happening. It's not happening because we are hanging out and lazy and just taking our time off. It's happening because we are arming ourselves with the tools that are necessary to make these important changes in our society. What are some of those tools? Some of those tools include Meatless Mondays. Meatless Mondays has been adopted in cities like San Francisco and Washington, D.C. The governments are endorsing these campaigns, encouraging citizens to not eat meat at least one day a week. In the city of Los Angeles has also adopted a Meatless Monday resolution in its city council, and with the result of that resolution empowered the city's school district to go meatless on Monday. It is the second largest. Los Angeles is the second largest school district in the United States. At 650,000 meat-free meals are now served every single Monday. What else are we seeing? We're also seeing politicians talk about these issues. If you guys managed to get to Jaya Bumitra's talk yesterday or on Friday, she talked a little bit about our U.S. Veggie campaign. This was a campaign that was launched because of Senator Raskin in Maryland, our hometown of Tacoma Park. One day he told the very local paper, you know, we can all do better for the environment if we didn't eat meat for 1 week a year. So we called him up and said, Senator Raskin, will you actually do that? Will you not eat meat for 1 week? And he said, you know, make it a town celebration. I'll do it. We got a proclamation signed by the mayor. He came out to a talk that we hosted, an event that we hosted. He publicly pledged to go vegetarian. It's a pledge he has kept to this day. He is still a vegetarian. In fact, he talks about going vegetarian means that he finally aligned his menu with his morals. We're talking about a campaign that is now, with his help, spread nationwide. We have even Cory Booker is going vegetarian. He is a vegetarian. He's supporting this campaign, and he got involved in this campaign this year by saying, I'm a vegetarian every day. US Veg Week is my birthday week, and you can bet your broccoli I'm in. So there are politicians who are tweeting about this, posting on Facebook, and sharing with their constituents the benefits of not eating meat and empowering them to also make those choices. So we're also seeing celebrities, politicians, people in Hollywood, they're all becoming vegucated. They're all talking about these issues in the public and having an impact. You guys were at the Hall of Fame Awards last night. You also saw the Vegan Athlete Award. Went to David Carter Jr., who is now vegan. He's an NFL player, and he's talking about how this benefits him compassionately. Is a choice that he made, as well as health changes that have been impacted by choosing these foods. So no matter what our path is, whether we're choosing to go meatless on Monday, whether we're vegetarian, if you're like Mark Bittman, you go vegan before 6. If you're like me, you're vegan before 6 and vegan after 6. No matter what our path is, we know that people face challenges. We know when we talk to people about our vegan or vegetarian eating that a lot of people find it to be a challenge. It's a sacrifice. I'm sure several of you in this room have told people that you're vegetarian or vegan, and people are like, oh, that is so good for you. It is not something that I can do. I'm proud of you, but I've tried. It's not something. They think of it as an uphill battle, as a challenge. So we, as a movement, have to make vegetarian and vegan eating seem as easy and as fun as it is, so that as many people want to get involved as possible. And how are we doing that? Well, one way we're doing it is trying to get more vegan options available in the marketplace. We know that when people go shopping and we see this in the marketplace, they're more likely to pick up vegan options, making sure they're readily available, that they're accessible, they're in front of our faces, so that people, even if they're not buying them today, it's in their minds, they might buy them tomorrow. So one way that we're doing this is pushing companies to offer more vegan options in the marketplace. We reached out a few years ago to Morningstar Farms and asked them to remove eggs from their products. They make a great vegetarian line of food, but a lot of it has eggs. They were a little resistant at first until they said to us one day while we were negotiating with them on this issue, they said, we know it's a good idea, we just don't hear from customers about it, so we're not going to make it a priority. Well, we helped them hear from customers. We put out a website asking people, MorningstarEggFacts.com, asking customers, please contact Morningstar Farms, tell them you want vegan options, ask them to take eggs out of their products. They responded a couple months later saying that they will make a switch to reduce the amount of eggs that they use. In fact, since they made that decision in 2008, the company itself has used at least 7 million fewer eggs, which means 28,000 fewer hens are suffering on factory farms as a result of one company's decision. Morningstar Farms said they were doing this cool stuff. We're like, hey, Light Life, have you guys heard of what this other company's doing? And they immediately said, oh, no, yeah, we saw it. And hang on, we're going to do something. So they too responded by saying, this is a much smaller company, but they responded by saying they're going to use fewer eggs. And since they've made their decision in 2009, they have used about 1 million fewer eggs in their products. They also pledged to introduce 3 new vegan options in the marketplace in 2009, but they could not decide which ones. They ended up introducing 6 new vegan options in the marketplace. And then, of course, we're excited that all these companies are making changes. We decided, we really need to push Boca. So we contacted Boca Foods before, and they pretty much hung up on us. They wanted nothing to do with us. Their email responses were, thank you for contacting us, and that was it. So we put together a website, we put together a campaign letting them know what other companies were doing, put together this website, BocaEggFacts.com, sent it to them the day before we launched it, and got an immediate reply back, which we said, this is great, I'd love to talk with you, and you will, hopefully understand this is an important issue because consumers will be contacting you. And in 2 weeks after launching our website, they were so bombarded with emails and calls that they contacted us and said, please make it stop. I promise you we're going to do something really big on this issue if you just make it stop. And a couple weeks later, they came back and said, we will take all eggs out of all of our products. So we've been working, for the sake of time, I'm going to go through really quickly how vegetarian eating is definitely shifting from the margins to the mainstream. We're seeing fast food restaurants from 4-star to fast food are adopting vegan menus. They're pushing these foods out the door. They're encouraging their customers to try new foods. Even White Castle, do you guys know White Castle? Made most famous probably from Harold and Kumar. They are now, as of a few days ago, they're testing out a veggie slider. This is everywhere, and it is so important to keep pushing this. It's not even just that we're getting vegan options out there. Companies don't even want to talk about meat anymore. There's a study that showed that 43% of conversations on the internet about meat were negative and often included words such as bad, concerns, and problem. So one company decided, well, this is a bad thing to talk meat. We'll just call it protein and drop meat from our menu completely and just call it protein. Meat is now becoming a bad word. And it's not just there, the meat and poultry, I know you guys all read this website, meatandpoultry.com. They recently put out an article, why doesn't the industry make meat analogs? Why doesn't the industry? Well, they talked about in this article specifically, geared toward the meat industry, the primary reason people choose a vegetarian or vegan diet is to reduce animal suffering. I agree with them. If consumers are going to buy meat analogs, you might as well be the one selling them. And finally, they concluded, don't fight them, join them. Here is an opportunity. And we're seeing meat companies, these massive meat industries are branching out. There's a recent article just last month in meatingplace.com. I know everyone's favorite publication. There's an editorial in this magazine written by Lisa Keith here. You can see in this, she's talking about why companies are branching out into non-meat. These meat-based companies are branching out into non-meat foods. Why? Well, according to her, it's because activists are not using hidden cameras to scope out peanut abuse in Hormel's suppliers. So the bottom line of all of this is that we have to ask. We have to get out there and ask. These changes are happening because we're making them happening. We're asking these companies to make these changes. And it sometimes might feel awkward or uncomfortable. You're not quite sure what to do. But we have to remember we're doing it for her, and her. It is so important to get our message out there and make sure people know that we want to see these changes. Inside each and every one of you, there is a superhero, and I want you to embrace that and recognize that you can have a tremendous impact for animals just by making the decision to ask companies to change. Thank you.